Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Putty, and welcome back for another edition of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. We are the best damn territorial wrestling on the planet today. Sorry Tucker, but it's true. It's damn true. It's 2022. It's the Wrestling Classic. It's our February show, and tonight, in our main event of the evening, it will indeed be a Wrestling Classic as Austin Smooth, Easy Money, the 2022 Ripcord Invitational Challenge winner, representing Freedom Caribbean Wrestling, comes back here to the premier territory in the business to face our champion, our man, Ernest Youngman, the assassin of the squared circle. But before we get into that, I promised you the 2021 rankings this episode, and that's what you're going to get. So let's take a look at the results from across the world, actually, because I failed on this occasion. Last year, I filtered out any matches that weren't in the territories, and this year I failed to do that. It was a mistake that I realized about halfway through my process and was like, it'd take too much time to correct. So this is every match they've fought this year, including matches in Japan and in non-territorial companies. So it's actually like a real credit to Ernest Youngman, who finishes very highly, because he doesn't work Japan, unlike a lot of the guys on the list. And he is actually probably, all those matches are probably from the territories, so huge credit to him for that. But without further ado, let's take a look at them. Here are the results from 2021. As you can see, a very, very impressive year for George Wolf. A lot of that is obviously his Japanese touring, though. Scythe pretty much only works the territories, so huge ups to him. Same with Ernest. Same with the Mean Machine. That's a high finish. Of course, big gap between Mean Machine and Scythe there. Frosure finishing highly. He doesn't work a lot of Japan. Dewey Archer, same. Logan Wolfsbane goes out a lot. American Elemental spends a lot of time over there, and then the bottom two obviously do not. And one thing I wanted to make a very clear about these rankings is if you're not on the rankings, that doesn't mean you're like shit. These are the 10, no, actually, that's not the case. What I wanted to make clear is that if you're at the bottom of these rankings, you're not shit. What it means to be at the bottom of these rankings is you are the worst of the best. Being on this list in the first place is a huge achievement. These are the 10 best wrestlers in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling at the moment, and yeah, they've had really good years. It's just that they haven't had as good years as people higher on the list, so that's important to note. So what are we taking away from this list? What's the big announcement that we can make from this list? Well, next month at the show that I can't remember the name of, that I never can, it's probably Americana, we are going to have George Wolf get a shot at the Mid-Atlantic Championship. He's going to either be taking on Ernest Youngman or Austin Smooth, depending on the result of our main event of the evening. And also, of course, this list will help me get matches together for the first couple months of the year. But I thought you guys might be interested in those. Oh, right, that was a lot to say. Tonight we are in Charlotte City Hall. Lots of matches to get to. Let's get right into it. Yeah. We kick off the show with a AllStar tag team match as George Wolf and Logan Wolfsbane take on Davis Wayne Newton and Huracan. Of course, Davis Wayne Newton, a fast-paced Canadian wrestler, bringing that fast-paced aggression to this match. Big, high-flying, high-octane, adrenaline rush, momentum-style wrestling from Davis Wayne Newton. In there with the luchador Huracan, who, of course, has a technical basis, has some strikes, but is mainly a luchador. And indeed, they're taking on two members of Team Progress, big, bulky lads who pride themselves on their physical appearance. And indeed, Logan Wolfsbane and George Wolf are some of the biggest, baddest superstars around. Former World Heavyweight Champion and former Mid-Atlantic Champion between them. And indeed, their strength, their aggression, their clubbing blows are able to kind of beat down and work down the fast-paced tag team on the other side and get the advantage in this opening contest and pick up the victory. Team Progress continuing a stunted bit of momentum. They've definitely not at the peak of their powers anymore, but a strong victory for Team Progress over the hot up-and-coming superstars in Davis Wayne Newton and Huracan. As we move on to a one-night-only appearance by Shooting Star Perez, one of the hottest young stars in the business, coming in trying to use his quick pace to upset the architect of your destruction, Dewey Archer, but Dewey Archer dominating, using those charismatic technical maneuvers with a wink and a smile, locking in every single technical maneuver under the sun, working limb to limb, going hold to hold, working down Shooting Star Perez, and indeed picks up the victory with his stolen proton lock in about 10 minutes. And then we have a good brawl here between Frosure and Robin Delay. Frosure, of course, at the end of last year, promised that he would take down every single member of Team Progress because they worship a fallen idol, a broken pedestal. You know, he called out George Wolf for his addiction to certain drugs. You know, whether or not that's true or not, you know, we can hardly speculate. It has been rumored that he may have gotten addicted to painkillers after his really bad injury a couple of years ago. But of course, that's all speculation. We don't have any official statements from the man himself. And indeed, Frosure, you know, hates the idea that there's this entire group dedicated to taking advice from him, and all he is this fallen pedestal. Indeed, of course, Frosure has other reasons to hate Team Progress. The man who put Frosure out for 4 months at the beginning of last year was Logan Wolfsbane, and Frosure said that put hard times on Frosure and his family. That put the hardest of times, missed every single paycheck for those 4 months, and is now in the worst financial spot of his life. And he was struggling to get by before that, always looking for that one opportunity to get ahead. But he put hard times on Frosure and his family, and indeed Frosure, as revenge, is going to take out all of Team Progress. He started with George Wolf at Where It All Begins Again. He succeeded, and now he takes down Robin Delay with that Death Valley driver, that sure thing. Big victory here from Frosure. Pick up the victory. And we move on to James Diaz taking out a one-time appearance from Chicago Championship Wrestling regular Shane Nelson. Of course, Chicago Championship Wrestling, our expansion franchise, the show we run out of Chicago on the fourth Friday of every month. Shane Nelson, big star up there, up in Chicago, coming here, making a one-night-only appearance to take on the return of the monster, James Diaz. And Shane Nelson, he tries to mix in those excellent technical wrestling skills with some good striking and some good fast-paced, high-octane risk maneuvers. But James Diaz is too strong, too powerful, and too aggressive to be caught off by the mixed styles of Shane Nelson, by the Chicago high-flying of Shane Nelson, and indeed James Diaz, the return of the monster, brutal, aggressive, the toughest man in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling today, arguably. You know, the son of, I believe, Raymond Diaz, one of the strongest gaijin in the history of Japanese professional wrestling, and James Diaz was brought up in that style. Stiff, hard strikes, brutal suplexes, nasty submission moves, working over Shane Nelson, just destroying, making Shane Nelson hurt. And you know, we see this, people like Scythe we've seen enjoy making other people hurt, enjoy the pain of a wrestling match. It doesn't look like James Diaz enjoys the pain, but he's very, very good at inflicting it. He's an extremely competent athlete. And when he goes to work on someone like Shane Nelson, you can see the pain inflicted by James Diaz. Every second of the match, just an extra layer of pain as he works down and makes his opponents suffer, only to advance his chances of winning, and there was never in doubt. And he picks up the victory with his Asian thumb spike after brutalizing Shane Nelson. A dominant, competent, impressive performance from James Diaz. As we move on to a fun 6-man tag team match as Devil May Care, the team of Kamikaze Acid and Stuntman, take on American Elemental and the Ring Generals. And indeed, American Elemental is defeated by Kamikaze. These two have had a long-term rivalry. It's been like 4 years now since those two started their rivalry. Every time they're in the ring with each other, they just can't keep their hands off each other. They are brutally targeting one another. They see the other man as their eternal rival, and every time they're in the ring together, they innovate. Innovate? Is that the same word? Anyway, innovate. They innovate, and they move to new levels of high risk maneuvers. They move to more flashy shit that'll make Vader cry. And every time they're in the ring, they're always doing something new, but it's always brutal and it's always aggressive and it's always focused on them. And in the background, we have the traditionally great tag team match of the Ring Generals taking on Stuntman and Acid. This has been going on for many years as well. The Ring Generals trying to isolate Acid or Stuntman, and a big hot tag comes as Devil May Care with their Valhalla attitude. They don't care how many broken bones or how many concussions it takes. They want to win matches and win titles. And you're looking at the current 2-time Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Tag Team Champions, in Acid and Stuntman, teaming up with their long-term friend Kamikaze, who also doesn't care how many brutal injuries he gets to his body. He's gonna fling his body around like a weapon because that's what it takes for glory. And indeed, tonight it is successful as the high-risk, high-octane, adrenaline-rush style of Devil May Care is too much for the ensemble tag team of the Ring Generals and American Elemental, and in the end, Kamikaze is able to pick out his rival, his eternal hatred for American Elemental, and pick up the victory with that reverse 450 splash. Good stuff from all involved, except for Marv, who's apparently stale. Gonna have to change that between episodes. Ernest Youngman gets to the Sweet Tabitha-led announcer or interview area, and he gets on the mic and he says, "Sweet Tabitha, tonight I get to face an incredible professional wrestler. His name is Austin Smooth, and he likes to call himself Easy Money because he thinks wherever he gets booked, instantly benefits. And I gotta tell you, he's right. He is a benefit to any single company that books him. He's one of the most sought after, most excellent professional wrestlers in the territories today. But you know, a lot of people look at Mid-Atlantic Wrestling as a stepping stone. They look at this championship that I hold around my waist as a leapfrog key, as a key to future success, because they know that whoever holds this title is the best of a great bunch. They know that whoever holds this title is the man in the Mid-Atlantic, and the Mid-Atlantic has the greatest prospects in the business today. Because Austin Smooth knows that whoever holds this title is seen as the future. Except me. Because I'm not the future. The future goes through me. And Austin Smooth, I'm ready and willing to admit that one day in the not too far future, it's going to be your time. But that's in the future. And my time is right now. And if you want to use MAW as a stepping stone, if you want to use this place as a leapfrog key, then you've got to go through the wrestling machine. You've got to go through the best there's ever been. You've got to go through the assassin of the squared circle. You've got to go through the man around here, because Austin, if you want to be the man, you've got to beat the man, and you are looking at him. This title is not easily won. This title is not easily gotten. This is not a gimme. This is one of the greatest championships in the history of professional wrestling, and you've got to earn it. And I believe you can, because I got to admit, you did fantastic work last month. You were a great professional wrestler, and you won the greatest tournament prize in the business today. But tournament wrestling is very different to championship wrestling, and tonight, you get a taste of the other side. Enjoy it, kid. It might be your last. Ernest Youngman, ready, hyped up. Can he retain against the invading Austin Smooth in our main event of the evening? Yes, he can, in a great match. Good wrestling, decent reaction from the crowd. Ernest Youngman defeats Austin Smooth in 25 minutes and 41 seconds by submission with a crossface chicken wing, making defense number 3 of his Mid-Atlantic Championship. You know, we've seen Ernest Youngman defend against the Mean Machine and against Scythe before. Two big, brawly, brutal, vicious professional wrestlers. Two men who use their size and their power to gain advantages. Tonight it was very different, because Austin Smooth came in and he played Ernest Youngman's game. Austin Smooth is very, very similar to Ernest Youngman. He is a great technical wrestler. He is a charismatic technical wrestler, and he comes here to Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. He winks to the crowd. He smiles to the crowd. He sucks it all up. He brings in the energy. He absorbs the energy of Charlotte City Hall, and he uses it to drive him forward. And he'll go hold for hold, toe to toe with Ernest Youngman, who, let's not forget, is a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. The most decorated man in the history of the territories. Arguably the greatest technical wrestler of all time. Certainly one of the best technical wrestlers in the history of the territories. And he's being matched toe for toe by Austin Smooth, who is so smooth. He is so smooth. The name's not a lie. It's not a joke. It's a spoiler. And indeed, Ernest Youngman is just being bowled over in times by the excellence of execution that is Austin Smooth. Just every hold perfectly transitioned, perfectly moved, and Austin Smooth working over those arms of Ernest Youngman, stopping him hopefully from locking in that crossface chicken wing or lifting him up for the hit. Both of those things being executed fantastically by Austin Smooth. But you know, Ernest Youngman, he's got heart. He's got passion. He loves this business. He loves that title. He loves this company. And you know, Austin Smooth, one thing he gets in his first 10, 15 minutes of the match where he seems to be on top of a great technical sequence. Austin Smooth realizes that he's not going to put Ernest Youngman down without a fight. 1 count kickouts, 2 count kickouts. Ernest Youngman will not go down without a fight. Austin Smooth trying to lock in the smooth hole. Ernest Youngman manages to convert, manages to transition, manages to float over, manages to get to the ropes, whatever it takes. Fighting away from an Austin Smooth victory. See, I'm confusing these two because they are quite similar. Moving away from an Austin Smooth victory. Ernest Youngman, damage mitigation. Risk management, stopping Austin Smooth from putting together a winning sequence. And in the end, Austin Smooth realizes he's not going to put together that winning sequence, and he starts to get complacent, starts to get desperate, starts to get vicious, starts to hit the ropes with some not high flying, but really high paced stuff. Some momentum style wrestling, bull in a china shop stuff, kicks, punches, drop kicks, everything. He's starting to transition to these high risk maneuvers. And Ernest Youngman senses blood and he pounces. These high risk maneuvers, they reveal weaknesses. And there's one thing you don't want to do in a match with Ernest Youngman is reveal a weakness, because he pounces, and with a wink and a smile he'll lock in every single technical wrestling maneuver under the sun, going limb from limb, hold to hold, as Ernest Youngman works you over like no one else can. And indeed, that's what Ernest Youngman does, working every single limb Austin Smooth has, making him hurt, making him know that Ernest Youngman is in control of the match. And that's what Ernest does, and the tide starts to turn, and this desperate attitude of Austin Smooth starts to come out as he tries to viciously brutalize one of Ernest's arms, but it won't work. And Ernest Youngman's got too much heart and too much passion to be set back, and he keeps going, and he keeps running, and he keeps transitioning, and Ernest Youngman will not be put down, and he keeps up his game until finally he locks in the deadliest hold in the territories today, and middle of the ring with nowhere to go, he makes Austin Smooth pass out to the crossface chicken wing. Ernest Youngman makes defense number 3 of his Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Championship. And that's a good show. I really enjoyed that. Hope you guys did too. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, check out the rest of the series, subscribe if you haven't already, let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're feeling especially generous, like somebody was recently, I recently got a Patreon pledge, which was really awesome to see. Really thank you for that. You know who you are. But if you're also feeling especially generous, then go ahead and check out the link to my Patreon. It's in the description. If you want to hear me ramble on Twitter, link to that is also in the description. And aside from that, next time we get to see Ernest Youngman. He was able to take out Austin Smooth tonight, the man who plays his own game. We've seen before that Ernest was able to take out some big brawlers in the form of Scythe and the Mean Machine. But can he do someone who can do it all? Can he face George Wolf next episode, who is a brawler and a technical wrestler all mixed into one, and he's great at them both? You know, we've seen George and Ernest fight before, most recently for the World's Championship. Only a few years ago, where it all begins again, and on that occasion, the Big Bad Wolf came out with the gold. Can he do it again? He's never won the Mid-Atlantic Championship. Find out if he'll win his first next time at I Think Americana. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Jesus Christ, I'm out of breath. I'm going to end this episode before you hear me exhale in a really embarrassing way. Peace out.